Yeah.
Today's project is going to be fixing up a very overgrown and long forgotten pond in the garden. I built this pond over 10 years ago, and for quite a few years it was a feature in the garden, but as you can see it's definitely been neglected. So today's plan is to get it back up and running, get the water flowing again from that top tier down to the lower tier. I've also got a bit of a Japanese inspired tweak to add to the water feature. The other thing is there's lots of native birds around on the property, and they used to use this pond as a bit of a bird bath when it was in its prime, but since it's been overgrown and neglected, that hasn't been the case. So I'm keen to see if they return once we get it all fixed up. The other thing is we've had a lot of paddy melons move in recent years, almost in plague proportions. Now, if you don't know what a paddy melon is, because you're not from Australia, basically it's a miniature kangaroo, and they kind of come out at dusk and through the night, and I've seen some signs of them around the pond, so I think once it's cleaned up they may use this in the night to drink from, so I'm keen to see if we can capture them as well. So this is what we're working with. We've got the bigger pond at the bottom here, and then up here is a smaller round one, and under here somewhere there used to be a bit of a spillway, and the water would flow from that top one down into that lower one. Just very overgrown. These orchids are very nice though, so we'll try not to disturb those. All right, let's get in and make a start on the pond. The first thing I want to do is clear everything around the pond. We've got this big lamandra here. We've also got the tall mondo grass, which has kind of taken over. So basically I just want to clear everything and have a bit of a clean slate to start with. With that all clear, I can really see what we're working with around the pond. There's a couple of ferns and things around the back there that I want to try and save. I'm going to get into the pond and clean this out now. There's a lily there that I want to try and save. I'm just going to be mindful because I think there might be some fish, or at least there was many years ago. Wow. That root system. There's the old pump. Alright, we've got a few fish and a few tadpoles as well. You can see what I made these out of. It's like an old enamel tub and just concreted the inside. Just gonna move that so I can get it level again. The drain comes down here, so I've just been trying to dig this out so I can get the bottom pond to drain properly. Because the overflow in the pond is this bit of pipe that sits in there, it spills over and then comes out this drain. I'm going to try and make a bit more of a drainage soakage pit here. I'm going to chuck this at the end of here and then just pour a bit of gravel over it. As you can see, I've made quite a bit of mess here. So I'm going to take some of this to the chickens because I don't want any of it growing back, and I think they're going to enjoy it.
Excuse me.
So I got that top pond sitting pretty level and the water's draining out of the low point where I want it. So now I'm going to remake a spillway to join the top pond down to the bottom one. Alright, got that new spillway in and I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. And now it's time to add that extra water feature element that I was talking about. So I finished off the other day by cutting this piece of bamboo to size, and the plan is to attach it to here. I've also cut this stake with a notch in it, which I'm going to hammer down. Attach this here and then run the pipe into this, and the water will run out of here into this one and then down into that one. So the pipe's all connected up at this end, and now I've got to connect that pipe up to the pump at the other end, and I've got to connect the pump to a solar panel. I've pulled out the old solar panel that was overgrown in the garden, given it a clean. It still looks pretty good. For the pump though, I'm going to put a new one in because I'm not really sure the condition of the pump. All this is a little 12-volt bilge pump that you'd put in a boat. I'm going to hide the panel away here so you can't see it from the front when you're looking at the pond. And the way it'll work is just if the sun is shining on the panel, the pond will pump water around. It's obviously quite overgrown, so a lot of this needs to go so the sun can hit this panel. This pipe here is the overflow, so instead of water spilling out and over the edge of the pond, it kind of goes down into that. But as you can see, the water level from where that is would be quite low. So what I want to do is increase it just a little bit so we can get the pond as full as we can. So I'm going to cut a new piece of pipe for that. Then I'm going to zip tie the pump onto the piece of pipe so it's not sitting on the bottom, sucking up any gunk off the bottom of the pond. And then once I've done that, I can fill the ponds up with water and let them sit to settle. Good morning. Well, the pond is holding water, which is a good sign. So now all that's left is to finish the landscaping off around it and then see if the water's going to flow. So the plan is to run a bit of a rock edge up here and then add some fill so we can fix up the levels, get a good layer of mulch down, and then up the side here I'm going to plant mini mondo, which will spread out and be a good ground cover without crowding the pond and hiding it. Then down the front I've got some fibre optic grass, similar sort of thing. It'll bush out a bit bigger than the mondo. And then around the back some more tropical sort of style plants with some ferns and things around the pond and around the back. So let's cut to a time lapse as I finish off this landscaping. Well, that's a wrap on the pond restoration. It's looking a whole heap better than it was just a couple of days ago. And as those plants grow out and the ground cover starts to spread, I think it's going to continue to look even better. The only thing left now is to see if the pond is going to attract any wildlife.
I set up the trail cam and at first it didn't capture anything more than the wind and the odd passing bird. I did spot a kingfisher diving in a few days after the pond was finished, and although it was too fast for the trail cam, I managed to snap a few shots of it in a nearby tree. I also found a frog, but had almost given up on the trail cam when it captured a bandicoot nosing around the edge of the pond. No paddy melons yet, but I'm pretty happy with the wildlife I've seen so far.